Spring is starting to happen here in Upper Canada. I can see birds everywhere. The snow is almost all melted. There's large pools of water all over the ground. I opened the door and went out this morning, and the bird song, the birds are just freaking. They just want spring to be here. They're flying around looking for nests. It's just crazy. It's like it's a frenzy out there today. This is a show about jewelry, why we wear it, why it matters, how it's made, and what it means. I'm Alex D, and I turn cannabis into gold. I make mind-blowing jewelry in gold, silver, and platinum from cannabis plants here in Canada for stage, screen, for people who want to rock crazy jewelry. I'm the Cannabis Goldsmith. Today I want to talk about cannabis. Okay, we've talked about all the Grammys and the Academy Awards and all that stuff and AI, all kinds of stuff unrelated to jewelry making. But today I want to talk about cannabis, which is sort of unrelated to jewelry making for most people, but not for us, because that's what we do. We turn cannabis into gold, platinum, and silver jewelry. We're the specialists in that area on the planet. Tribe. So how did we do it, and how do we think about cannabis as a brand, as a company? Let me tell you. Let me tell you how I thought about it. When we legalized here in Canada. We're based in Canada, and we legalized cannabis a few years ago. Now, the legalization has issues, and it's not really legalization, it's more regulation. But there are certain elements to it in our country that allow us to do the work that we do here at Tribe. Okay. First off, there's a general sense that cannabis is not criminal anymore. There's a general sense in Canada and around the world. It's starting to happen in the States. Legalizations or decriminalizations are starting to happen. That's rolling out across culture. I mean, cannabis has been very involved in music culture and movie culture for years and years and years, for 50, 100 years, whatever. It's been there. Now it's starting to roll out into the mainstream culture. But back to us in Canada, when we were about to legalize cannabis, when cannabis was about to when the law was about to change, there was this 6-month period before that where the police they wouldn't do investigations or charge anybody for cannabis crimes in like the 6 months before legalization in Canada, and everyone realized this was the time to take advantage of the openness, even just for that short period of time. And so what happened in Toronto, where I was at the time, all these markets started opening up all over Toronto and in some of the other Canadian centers. And I know they were happening in American cities as well. And when you think about a market, a cannabis market, what I'm talking about is if you go to a farmer's market on the weekend in your town and there are some farmers set up with piles of like a bunch of onions on a table or bags of lettuce or whatever that they've grown and that they're selling, or there might be like apple cider, products derived from the whatever they're growing, and you go around and you can buy your week's groceries there from the farmers and talk to them about the products. And they're so well informed because they've grown this stuff themselves, and they know it. It's like they know every stage of its development, right? And so they can sell you a product that might cost a little more, maybe, but they know all about it, and you can smell it and taste it and feel it right in front of you. It's not packaged. It's not in a dark container that you can't see what's inside it. So when I talk about cannabis markets in Toronto, I'm talking about much like a farmer's market, except it's just cannabis and cannabis derivatives, extracts, gummies, like all kinds of derivatives from the cannabis too would be at these markets. In addition to the flower, which the buds, if you don't consume cannabis. I take it everyone who listens to this podcast does consume cannabis on some or knows someone that does. So the stuff I'm talking about now, most of you understand this, hopefully. Anyway, so just in the 6-month period before the legalization happened in Canada, all these markets started springing up in Toronto. And what would happen was some promoters would get together, rent a space from either a restaurant that was on a slow night, or even just a commercial space, and they'd rent the space for a night, and they'd get vendors to come in with their tables and their wares of products and sell them. So you'd walk into these rooms, like it would be like a big empty space or a big square room with tables set up with vendors, like a farmer's market, except for weed. And it was amazing. Like, it was the most amazing thing ever. There'd be big, huge glass jars, and you could go up to the vendor and they'd open the jar and you could smell it and decide whether this is the one you wanted or not, or maybe the next one over or whatever. You could negotiate with the vendors. You could the prices could be adjusted depending on how much you bought and all this, just like you would at a farmer's market, right? It was amazing. And this is going to be the future of cannabis in North America. Eventually, this is what's going to happen as it becomes more and more culturally accepted. And once all the money stock bros are washed out of it, it'll become this. That's my hope anyway. But I aside from me describing to you what this was like pre-legalization in Canada, I immediately saw this as an opportunity to do market research, because here we have, it's like an incubator, like a test tube with what cannabis culture will be like 20 years from now. This is what it will look like. It will look like this 20 years from now. This is how people will interact with each other. This is how the vendors will interact with the customers. For the higher end, more farm, I would say, not mass-produced products, but curated, carefully grown products and carefully prepared products. This is what it's going to look like a farmer's market. It will look just like farmer's markets, except with cannabis. Or maybe even cannabis will be at farmer's markets, eventually. But I was looking at this opportunity. I would go to these markets and I would just watch people as they bought and sold cannabis. There were tables set up with pipes on them, and people could sample the different types of extracts of cannabis. And so I watched them do this. I was just taking it all in and watching. And then I started to get ideas about the types of jewelry that we could design and make and stuff. This is the market. It's like, these are the people who know cannabis, whatever they're using it for medical purposes, for personal use, or whatever, to enhance creativity, to do all this, whatever they're using it for, whatever they're consuming it for. It has a deep impact on their lives. I mean, on my life, and for example, I have severe arthritis. Like, it's bad, and I'm a jeweler. I need to work with my hands. And if you've seen some of the videos, you can see my knuckles I have Jean-Luc Picard knuckles. These giant, like, knotty arthritic knuckles that have limited mobility, right? And they hurt. If I'm sanding down products or polishing products or designing products, working on a piece for 4 or 6 hours or whatever, I'm in agony, and the cannabis helps me deal with that. So cannabis is important to me for that reason, for the medical use reason. But to other people, it has other import, right? It has other things that make it special. But also, it's completely ingrained in our culture. And as I was watching all the people buy and sell their cannabis in these markets and sample it and test it and engage with each other and compare their products, and it was just a fantastic market research opportunity. And what I drew from that is that cannabis is deeply embedded in the culture, and now is the time to make ancillary products for the industry. And by this, I'm talking about shit like floor waxes made from cannabis. I'm talking about car polishes made from the oils or whatever. Like it's going to be going into the mainstream of society in all kinds of ways. So we picked our niche, and we make jewelry. We make high-end jewelry for the cannabis plant. And what I noticed also was that while there was cannabis jewelry, I mean, out there, it's all cheap and mass produced. It's garbage, Chinese mass-produced crap, little cannabis leaf pendants and shit. They're just garbage. A lot of it's toxic, made of with toxic metals that kids are wearing. It's just disgusting. So I thought, no, we're going super high end. We're going super high end. And now some people call us the Cartier of cannabis, which I kind of think is an honor, really, because I love the early work of Cartier. But I think, we chose it. Let's make this product, this plant is so ingrained in the culture. Let's make high-end jewelry pieces from it. And so that's what we do. And now the joy of what we do is we experiment with it. Like we don't mass produce pieces. We make custom pieces, one-off pieces from the cannabis plant that are amazing. Like they're just stunning. We translate cannabis into gold, like into literal metal. Like I'm shocked at how good the quality is too when we work with the plant closely. So anyway, that's what I decided to do, is to work with the plant to produce super high-end jewelry for the culture. And that's what we're doing. But as I said before, there are other niches that are not yet explored that are out there. And if you think deeply enough about the cannabis sector, you will see them. So if you're a business person or an artist or a designer looking for ways to work with cannabis, there are ways to do it. Just think about it deeply and then make a plan and execute it. So anyway, with us, people say to me, when I just moved, I moved out of Toronto last year into an area of Ontario where we could build a design. We built a design studio and a skunkworks, basically an experimental design studio for cannabis, for turning cannabis into precious metal jewelry. It's like a skunkworks for skunk jewelry. So we built this on in Upper Canada along the Thousand Islands area, St. Lawrence River, close to Montreal, Ottawa, Toronto, New York. It's like we're well situated on the transportation communications routes. Is what I figure to be able to export, because that's what we are. We're a custom export luxury jeweler. So I wanted to be positioned to design the products here outside of Toronto, in an area where we could capitalize, where we could grow our 4 plants that we're allowed to grow in Canada, and make them into jewelry pieces and experiment with designs. So this is what we're doing. We're breaking a path here. I understand this. And being first in a marketplace is not always the best thing. I mean, sometimes it's the second person that's in the marketplace that capitalizes. But I don't really care, because this is something we have to do for the culture, and we're doing it. I'm 110% committed to working with cannabis and getting people to wear the cannabis plant as jewelry. That's my mission. And we're doing it. Now, granted, other jewelers around the world, I'm sure clients have gone to them and said, "Oh, can you make me a cannabis leaf pendant, please, with gemstones or whatever?" And they'll do it, but they don't understand the plant like we do. Like we live it, right? They're just somebody who again is making something they don't understand for a client they don't understand. We're not that at all. We understand cannabis, and we understand the way our clients understand cannabis, and how important it is to them, and how it ought to look fabulous when they're wearing it. Wear the plant, as we like to say. So as we started designing jewelry, we started working, I looked at the plant as a whole plant and said, okay, we'll make jewelry pieces out of the roots, the leaves, the seeds, the buds, the stems. We've done all that. And then it's in the first year we did all that. And then it's like, okay, what can we make out of these things? We can make cannabis seed belly studs. We can make wedding bands in 14 karat gold out of cannabis seeds. We can take cannabis roots, and make torque bracelets, or we can make chokers in 14 karat gold out of a cannabis root, right? Like just crazy mind-boggling stuff out of cannabis. And we've done all that. So now we're into probably the 10th generation of product design from cannabis already. We're moving very quickly with that, and now we're working on stuff like feeding plants special foods in order to thicken the leaves of the cannabis plant up so that we can cast them in precious metals. Like, the leaves are very delicate, some of these leaves, and they tear and they break. We've spent literally hundreds of hours working on pieces that were destroyed because the cannabis leaf is not sturdy enough to take the process of casting, right? So I've had to strengthen the cannabis leaves where we've developed techniques to actually infuse the cannabis leaves from the inside so they cast better while they're alive, and then the casts, the impressions turn out better because the leaves themselves are puffed out with certain types of nutrients that make them more sturdy and easier for us to cast. So that's what we're working on now. We're working on modifying the plant itself in order to extract more beauty, to capture the plant in a better way, to translate the beauty of the plant into actual physical jewelry pieces. So that's what we've been doing for the last year. We've been really narrowing and tightening up the products and the techniques of making the products from cannabis. This year, the growing season's about to start. So I've got 4 plants I'm looking at that I've picked out to grow this year for jewelry. And I don't know, like, we won't know until the fall what the roots will be like. But I can usually tell what the leaves are like as it's growing. Now, with the cannabis plant, the way we use the cannabis plant, people think of a cannabis plant, a person who hasn't grown a cannabis plant before has no idea about what they are, because they just buy like dried bud or some kind of cannabis product that they're used to buying. They have no experience with watching the plant grow. But as you watch the plant grow, you understand that the cannabis plant changes. Like, everyone knows a seedling is different than a fully grown plant, but cannabis goes through a variety of stages as it grows, and it changes. It physically changes. The leaf thickness changes, the stem thickness, the sturdiness of everything of the plant, the direction it grows, the shape of the leaves. There are so many different factors that change over the lifespan of the plant. Now, the plant lasts like 9 months or whatever, say 9 months for the whole life of the thing, and 10 months or whatever here. The longer I can grow one, the better, I think. But generally over the course of its life, it will go through these phases and change. And we've captured all these phases in jewelry. Like, we've taken snapshots, physical snapshots of the plant and translated into jewelry. So as you watch the plants grow, you get close to them. Like anyone who grows a house plant knows this feeling where you have like some kind of house plant, you put it on the windowsill and you give it water or whatever. Maybe it dies, but if it doesn't, it grows, and you get to, sometimes you even talk to it, right? Like, come on, dude, grow, or like, spring is coming, like you can do it, whatever. The plant will grow, right? But you communicate, and you start feeling like the plant's not communicating with you. Maybe it is, who knows? But like, you start engaging with it. Now, with cannabis, it's a similar thing. People who grow cannabis engage with their plants. They play them music. They do all kinds of weird stuff. Like, I play house music to our plants. Like, I don't know if that does anything, but as they're just starting out, I'm like dropping tracks on them, like major tracks, like major 90s house tracks these plants have listened to. So I don't know if that's going to impact the jewelry or not, but certainly makes me happier when I'm doing it. But anyway, the plant changes. We've captured that. Now, we're trying some other stuff with cannabis too. A lot of jewelry designers these days are using CAD programs, 3D design programs, and outputting to waxes and resins with 3D printers that they get cast in precious metals. So they're not designing the jewelry by hand. They're using models, 3D models that you can buy online. Somebody else has done it. It's been done a million times before. This is how most of the jewelry in the world is being made right now. It's being mass produced from existing 3D models. Now, we don't do this. I don't use 3D design technology in our studios at all, because cannabis designs our jewelry. That's the way I think about it. I don't want computers designing, or AI or anything designing our pieces. I want the cannabis plant to design our pieces. And so that's what we do. But we're not Luddites here. We're not low tech. I mean, I have an industrial laser in my design studio that cuts through silver and gold and platinum like butter, and I can do designs using that. But I use it as a tool, like I would a file or a saw. Like I can cut through stuff with it. It's super powerful, and we're just now starting to do some stuff with it. But I'm mostly using it for cutting now, but I'm going to be using it for design. And how I'm going to use it for design is, we've already done tests with this, but I've been photographing cannabis leaves under extreme high megapixel photos, like very, very intense, like 100 megapixel photos of a cannabis leaf, for example, and extracting all the visual data out of the leaf, and then burning that into silver and gold sheet with an industrial laser. So you capture all the pores in the leaf, you capture everything, but it's not a castable leaf. It's a transmutation of a leaf into precious metal from a photograph, a super high resolution photograph. Like this past year I was testing stuff out. I got Fujifilm loaned us one of their camera bodies, a 100 GFX body. This shoots like 100 megapixel photos. It's a medium format digital camera that can shoot incredibly huge detailed images, extract a lot of data from a visual source. So I shot piles of images from last harvest, and we're working with that now into designs. Now we can use this as texture too, right? Behind, say, a live leaf cast. Now go on our site, tribe.ca, and you can see what I mean by a live leaf cast. There's on the homepage, there's a bracelet, or soon there will be a pendant that displays what a live leaf cast looks like. So we take live cannabis and we model it and then cast it in gold, and it extracts all the sculptural detail from the plant itself and translates that into precious metal. Like our live casts are amazing. But imagine combining live casts with this lasered textured background. So I'm working on all kinds of this crazy stuff. Like I say, we're a skunkworks for skunk jewelry. But as cannabis rolls out across the culture, new uses for cannabis will become apparent, and jewelry is one. And here we are, we're making it, and I am just so excited to be able to take cannabis in these new directions. Now, what's happened in Canada since legalization? Many companies have failed. All the low-hanging fruit has been picked off. All the stock bros poured in, sucked all the money out. All these huge cannabis companies are in debt. They've laid off thousands. They built all this like literally millions of square feet of greenhouse growing space that is unused. And when they started doing all this, I couldn't see who was going to buy it all. Like why? I mean, Canada's legal, but no one else is. So how are they going to produce all this stuff and sell it? I couldn't understand. Anyway, all that's failed. And the whole industry, all the The stock bros are gone. They've taken their money. The layoffs are happening. They just closed the first Tweed, the first company that basically broached legalization in North America. Tweed, they were called. They were based in Smith Falls. They took over an old Hershey's factory and turned it into this grow center where they could grow weed. And then they had like a customer visiting center there where you could go and learn about it. And I wanted to go to the visitor center, which had been closed because of the pandemic. And so I wanted to do market research to see how they were thinking about it or doing it. And it was closed. It was finished. It's done. It's finished. The whole town of Smith Falls now is their main employer is gone. So they're fucked, right? So this is what has happened to the cannabis sector in Canada, and will happen in yours too. The quick, nimble stock bros will be in there sucking out money, and then what's left is for the rest of us to sort out. But I'm clear on what I want to do with it. That's what we're doing. We're making the finest jewelry products in the world from the cannabis plant. That's what Tribe is about. We're doing good work. We're happy with the work we do. And there's a future too, because I mean, we can go, our products are very high end, but we're inspiring others to think about cannabis in different ways, right? When I looked at, if you listen to our Grammys show, for example, I was like whining and complaining about how the artists were wearing this jewelry that had no relationship to their music or them or the culture. I mean, cannabis has more relationship to music than high jewelry with dangling pearls, right? Like, what does that even mean? It has no cultural relevance to the modern day, right? It doesn't. It's like, okay, some 18th century French princess wore a pin with a dangling pearl on it, but that has no relationship to today's hip hop, right? So these major jewelry companies that exist today, they, granted, they're good at what they do, but they have no idea culturally about what's going on. So that's why we're here at Tribe. Anyway, if you want something custom made from cannabis, here's how we work. Send me an email. Say, okay, I saw this bracelet on your site, and I want one like it. Can you make me one? That's as simple as it is. And you contact us. We work with you. We'll make the piece for you. It'll be absolutely magnificent. No one else will have it except for you. And it'll be made from cannabis. It'll be stunning. And I'm going to suggest here now that after I'm long gone, these pieces are going to be worth a lot of money. So that's how to think about how we work. Or we'll work with clients who really don't know what they want. Sometimes this is hard, but that's where we come in because we have clear ideas about what we do, right? So we can help a client narrow down an idea in order to create a piece that's right for them. We also work in other areas not related to cannabis. And this is where I want to morph them together and blend them together. I used to publish a DJ culture magazine in Canada in the 90s and the 2000s called Tribe. It was called Tribe Magazine. And it was focused on DJ culture, underground culture. So I know all these guys, all these DJs around the world, the people who set the music trends in the mainstream. So I started a magazine in the 90s to cover this. So I want to somehow, I'm still trying to figure this out. Like I'm trying to make DJ jewelry that's also cannabis related. Right now we're working on turntable weights for DJs, record players. I mean, turntables, DJs call them, decks, that hold a platter down, that hold a record down on a platter, but in precious metal. So a precious metal turntable weight with cannabis leaves on the outside. You imagine that? I can. So that's the kind of stuff we're doing. We're addressing needs in the culture with innovative jewelry products. Cannabis is a way to do that, but there are other subcultures that need addressing, and I'm going to only address the ones I understand. I'm not going to go out on a limb and try and make products for like ballerinas or whatever, because I have no idea what that's about, right? but we do know cannabis well, and our products are amazing. So anyway, that's a bit of the thinking behind Tribe and how we work with cannabis. And if you're looking at cannabis and you're saying, okay, I want to get involved in it somehow, of course you can buy stock in the companies. I don't recommend it. And you can look for people who make the traditional ideas. Okay, find somebody who makes the picks and shovels at the gold rush, because those guys are going to do well. They're selling the picks and shovels for the people who are flooding in there trying to mine the gold, right? They're going to do great. But here, there are no real picks and shovels. I mean, there's some, but the picks and shovels are generally manufactured in China. Stuff like lighting or greenhouse heating or that kind of shit, right? So, I mean, there might be opportunities there, but I don't know. The best bet is to look for things that haven't been addressed yet. And with cannabis, there's a lot of it. There's plenty. So look for it. Anyway, we're going to keep making our amazing jewelry. This year, I'm growing 4 different plants that we're going to model and turn into amazing pieces throughout the year. And I'll provide photos on our website to the pieces that we make, so you can get an idea of what we can do for you. Our website is tribe.ca. The CA stands for Canada. And I'm Alex D. I'm the jewelry designer, goldsmith, dude who loves making high jewelry from weed. I'm also Canadian too, very Canadian. So if you hear me talk a lot about Canada, it's because I love Canada. And we're selling products to the world from Canada, and that makes me so happy. Anyway, that's it for me this week, the Cannabis Goldsmith. You know what? I've been trying to say, okay, next week I'll talk about blah, blah, blah. I have no idea what I'm going to talk about next week. That's it for me. Spring is here. Let's rock. Let's make jewelry better. And if you want to wear something out of cannabis that is at the very high end, come see us and we'll make it for you. The Cannabis Goldsmith is produced by Tribe Communications, Inc. in the Thousand Islands area of Upper Canada. Tribe is a registered trademark used under license. We're not on Instagram all that much, so the best way to reach us and to see what we do is to go to our website at tribe.ca. Thanks for listening. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and leave a good review if you can. Thanks, and I'll see you next week.